Why hello there, my name's Arkthepenguin. Have you ever once thought to yourself, man, I could really go for a mouse right now? Don't answer that question. I know you have, because everybody has. I sure have. But unfortunately, nobody's ever really found the cure for mouse lust. Until now. Today, I am happy and proud to present the antidote for any and all things lack of mouse related. Where'd the rat go?
Well, I suppose instead of a rat, still haven't found that thing yet. Disney's Epic Mickey will have to do instead. Great. This game was developed by these two developers, whom I have never heard of. Junction Point Studios and Seed Studio. No, not plural, not Seed Studios, just Seed Studio. Why they went with that name, nobody knows, not even them. So let's see what these studios, or rather studios and studio, are known for. Junction Point actually published a ton of incredible masterpieces. It's honestly insane. They published Epic Mickey, Epic Mickey 2, Epic Mickey Power of Illusion. Wait, what? Apparently the only games that this studio made and published are the Epic Mickey games. They do have a couple of canceled games that they were working on. These two games include a game called Sleeping Giant, which I have no clue what it was supposed to be. I read something saying it was supposed to be a Disney thing, but I don't know for sure. And the second canceled game was one of the Half-Life 2 episodes. Yeah, apparently this studio was working on one of the freaking canceled episodes of Half-Life 2. Okay. Now, Seed Studio helped out on the PS3 launch title, wait, how do you pronounce that? Railfan Tywin High-Speed Rail for the PS3. Okay. And after Epic Mickey, they worked on a few obscure Doctor Who games, which I've never heard of in my entire life.
And these two studios came together to make a 3D platforming game for Disney. Disney's Epic Mickey. And the overall concept for this thing was great. I mean, look at this concept art. Look at that concept art. That's so cool. Look at that one. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm gonna stop. I'm making this harder on myself. Does overall concept determine a game's quality? Or is it the execution of that concept? In my opinion, it is definitely a little bit of both. So let's see whether Epic Mickey just does one, the other, or it does something else entirely and play Epic Mickey.
The second you boot up the game, it shoots you directly into a cutscene that establishes the plot. Basically, one day Mickey was just chilling out, but then a certain thought crossed his mind. God, I want to jump in that mirror. Which is exactly what he did, somehow. He comes out the other end of the mirror to find himself in Yen Sid's wizardry room. I don't know, like, the terms and stuff like that. I'll just call it a wizardry room. Mickey observes as Yen paints what appears to be a city with a magic paintbrush. God, I want that magic paintbrush! Yen then puts the brush down and goes upstairs to go to sleep or something like that, which was a very, very big mistake on his part. Little did he know that a little mischievous and curious Mickey Mouse was watching him use the magic brush. Mickey goes to pick up the brush and... simultaneously creating... Not
a good day to be a mouse.
Knowing that the same green paint he spilt got rid of things, he dumped some on the thing and successfully got rid of it. Mickey then, being the utter coward he is when it comes to getting in trouble due to paint problems, ran away and jumped back in the mirror he came through before Yen Sid returned. Everything was fine and dandy for Mickey after that event. He even won some sort of competition or something. Good on him. All was well until... I'm not gonna make that joke again. Yeah, Mickey gets dragged into, like, the other world that Yen made by that thing.
God, I hate it when that happens.
Mickey is portrayed as a little bit mischievous in this game, and this isn't just the beginning cutscene, this is throughout the whole game. I mean, Mickey has been a troublemaker in some media, but I mean, this is the first time I've ever experienced it being, like, one of his main character traits. I'll talk a bit more about the characters in a bit, though, whenever I tackle the narrative and story and stuff like that. But for now, let's talk about this title screen. You're sent directly to it after the first cutscene plays, and overall, oh my god, it's really boring. It looks fine, I guess, but there's barely anything going on here. I mean, a few paint splatters here and there, but that's literally the only thing that changes. Other than that, it's a static image. The music is nice, though, very epic. How ironic. In this menu, you have two options, play game and extras. So let's just check out the extras before I inevitably forget. So you actually get the extras as you progress through the game, so I ended up having to come back to this later on, and it's really not that special. There's some really well done art in the art section, especially this one. God, that's adorable that they put that in there. And you can even watch straight up films, but like, who would actually do that? So now that that's out of the way, let's check out the second option to start the game. The first thing you see after starting up the game is Mickey being experimented on by the Mad Doctor, who is one of the main antagonists, and does this to him. Holy crap! A little bunny rabbit named Oswald, who used to help out the Mad Doctor, is then introduced through him just being on screen and doing nothing other than watch Mickey get tortured. I do this occasionally myself.
I like this. This is good.
After Mickey decided that he has had enough of some guy plunging out his heart, something we will all have to go through at some point or another, he somehow breaks the metal cuffs holding him down with his bare gloves, and the Doctor retreats. While he is retreating, he drops the magic paintbrush, and Mickey acquires it. But after picking it up... Ooh. Ooh! And gameplay. Okay, now we're in the tutorial section where a gremlin named Gus teaches you the basics of the game. How to jump, double jump, attack, all that jazz. Gus is kind of like the Navi of this game, constantly telling you how to use your tools and whatnot, even if you already know how to use them. Especially if you already know how to use them. In the beginning, Gus was infuriating because of how much he reminded you how to use things you already know how to use. But later in the game, he evolves to be far less annoying and kind of likable. I especially like how he introduces new abilities. He pulls out this chalkboard and little animation plays, which shows you the basics of the new mechanic. Oh god, it's so cool.
I built Mickey. So that's the beginning of Epic Mickey. Overall, it does a decent job of being a origin story, or rather a beginning. But there are still a lot of things that aren't explained by the end, or just straight up don't make sense. Like, why does the Mad Doctor want to kill Mickey so badly? Because he's a bad guy? That's dumb. I guess he used to work with Oswald. Keyword used to. In fact, the only two characters that actually have decent reasoning for being the way they are Mickey and Oswald. But we'll get to my boy Oswald in a bit. For now, let's discuss the presentation and the visuals, which aren't too far off from looking like a video game. I did have to look pretty hard, though. Whoa, there it is!
Right out of the gate, this game solidifies a very good atmosphere and tone. The tone was way different from what I expected from a freaking Disney game. I expected to be all like super happy and crap, and very derivative from other Disney games. And while, of course, there is still some of that there, I mean, it is a Disney game after all, they ended up going for a far darker tone than I expected. Instead of a happy, colorful Mickey Mouse location, we have a dark and moody theme park. We have a mechanical cyber area, a Dark Souls-esque castle. This is fantastic, in my opinion. I don't know if you've noticed this from some of my favorite pieces of media, but I love it when popular, once relatively kid-friendly things go for a far darker and unique tone. Not only can it be refreshing for a fan like myself, but it also, in all the cases I mentioned before, better for me. And that is exactly how I feel with the tone that Epic Mickey exudes. In fact, there are only 2 locations I can think of that go for a cookie-cutter Mickey video game location instead of a unique feel. Pretty much every other location feels really gloomy and just super cool. The animation is also really well done. I especially love the cartoon animated cutscenes. Even the non-cartoon animation is still pretty okay, but it cannot hold a candle to the animated scenes, which are so wonderfully animated that you can tell a character's entire personality by how they simply move their arms. The visuals and atmosphere never do anything out of this world, but it never goes below looking mega charming and just super, super cool.
I mean, every other game with that title does the exact same thing. What else would you expect?
To get to each level, you're going to have to go into these projector things that transport you into a 2D level that all support their own art style based on Mickey's past adventures, cartoons, stuff like that. I'll go over them more in the level design section of this video, but for now we're talking about the presentation and visuals. And these are my, favorite looking parts in the entire game. Easily, it's not even close. And not only do these 2D levels look nice, each one is based off of one of Mickey's old cartoons. As an example, the very first one you go through is based on Mickey and the Beanstalk from 1947. And since I've watched many of these cartoons when I was young, these levels, regardless of whether you've even played them before, automatically give you this feeling of instant nostalgia.
These 2D levels were definitely the highlight of this game visually for me. But what about the writing and characters? I mean, I did just finish up Red Dead Redemption 2, and in my opinion, it is the new poster child for good writing, character, and character development. So obviously, I should compare Red Dead Redemption 2, a AAA Rockstar game, to Disney's Epic Mickey, a B-grade Junction Point Studios and Seed Studio game. Because who wouldn't?
In all seriousness, though, I am actually curious to see how they did on the writing side of things. I mean, the presentation was a massive surprise. I mean, it was not what I expected at all, so surely the story will also be completely different.
No.
Well, that's unfortunate. Considering how unexpectedly good the overall presentation was, it was surprising how little effort they put into the story department. Now, of course, you could say that story isn't what makes a platformer good, and you'd be absolutely correct. However, this game does an absolutely abysmal job at incentivizing you to keep playing. It never gives you a reason to care about what happens to any of the characters in this game. In fact, there were a few times that I purposely failed side quests because just this quest is only going to give me some random collectible that I can only use to 100% the game. And I don't really care if the horse gets his pie from Clarabelle the cow. Part of this is definitely on me, but I also think that the way they introduce the characters and the way you interact with them, it just never gives you a reason to care about them. In the end, my favorite character actually ended up being Oswald. Oswald, other than Mickey, was the only character that ended up being a better person at the end of the game.
God, he's a rabbit!
The way they introduced Oswald and portrayed him made me actually root for him because he wasn't just a mindless void. He actually had a personality, aspirations, goals. He gave us a reason to care about him. He was actually interesting. He had actual reasons to be the way he was. He was jealous of how Mickey essentially stole everything he had. You felt bad for Oswald. You wanted him to get back what was taken from him, but you were also rooting for Mickey to fix his mistakes. Speaking of Mickey's mistake, I don't think I talked about the backstory of the world that you're exploring in this game. Basically, the green paint Mickey spilt is actually called thinner, which is one of the main gameplay mechanics that you will be using throughout the game. When Mickey spilt the thinner, it caused a lot of damage to Yen's world he created, which is the exact same world this game takes place in. And remember this guy? Yeah, apparently he goes by the Phantom Blot, and he is the main antagonist of the game. Basically, when Mickey awakened Blot and spilt the thinner, it did a bad. Yeah, pretty much the entirety of Yen's world was filled up with a variety of enemies from the Blot, and the thinner also wiped out a few chunks of buildings and people. And you end up watching a horse die. GG. Being completely his fault, Mickey felt it was his duty to fix his mistake. Which it was.
It's a simple plot, but it's functional. And it at least made me somewhat interested to see what was going to happen. Did that horse actually die? Like, these are things we need to know!
Like I said before, thinner is one of the main gameplay mechanics in this game. Not only because chunks of things and levels are missing due to the thinner Mickey spilled, but also because you, the player, can actually make Mickey get rid of certain things with thinner and reform objects with paint. And of all the mechanics this game introduces, this is definitely the poster boy. You may not use it the most, but pretty much all of the puzzles are solved using this paint and thinner mechanic. And to be honest, I'm actually still trying to figure out if I like this as the game's main gimmick. On one hand, it shows so much delicious creativity, especially when it comes to the puzzles. There are quite a few head scratchers in this game that I found super annoying at first, but when I solved it, I felt like a genius. But on the other hand, it makes this game way easier when it comes to platforming. Like, here's a bridge. You might think you're supposed to jump on these type platforms, right? No. Overall, though, I think I'm somewhere in the middle. The paint and thinner mechanic is definitely cool, but once the coolness wears off, it kind of becomes this game's easy mode. Something I'm not torn on is the double jump, however. Yeah, this isn't great.
Hold on, he said what about the double jump in Epic Mickey?
Just like the paint and thinner, double jump makes this game like mega easy. Too easy. But unlike the paint and thinner, the double jump displays absolutely no creativity whatsoever. Literally, all the double jump does in this game is make the game easier, just as it would in real life.
I should have double jumped.
Now, this is a Wii game, so what would it be without a motion control gimmick? Answer, anything but a Wii game. So of course Epic Mickey has some motion controls. Other than using the pointer to shoot your paint and thinner, you can perform a Mario Galaxy style spin attack, minus the propelling upward by shaking your Wii remote. This attack only knocks back enemies and dazes them, so you can either spray them with thinner to kill them, or paint to befriend them. Also, I feel like I should say, if you spray them with paint, then apparently you will get a better ending. By the way, I have no clue why, but this game has a freaking morality system. Why? No one knows. Mickey's morality is usually affected by how you go about doing side quests, or whether you kill a certain character or spare them, or something like that. Kind of like, oh god, what was that one game that came out in 2015? Oh, and that other game that came out? Oh, that one. Oh, there was another one as well. Oh yeah, there was that one. Oh yeah, there was that one. Keep in mind, this is a Mickey game. Once again, why does a freaking Mickey game have this? Well, it's sure not to contribute anything to the experience, because this system does nothing but exist in this game for the point of existing. Anyway, back to the moves and abilities, which there's only one other one. The sketches. If you point the cursor at something and press the minus button, then it will spawn an item. The item you spawn can be chosen by pressing the plus button. This is the only mechanic that I think displays creativity and enhances the gameplay. You will be using these sketches to solve puzzles, find secrets, and some other stuff, and I really liked it.
Okay, so I went into this knowing that it was going to be an easy game. I mean, it is a Disney game after all. But I never in a million years could have ever expected exactly how the developers were going to implement difficulty. You see, instead of being like a normal game and, progressively getting more difficult, this game goes for a far more abstract and different route. This game implements difficulty by starting off at like 2-year-old level, and then adding in a bunch of annoying garbage in little spurts, and then going back to 2-year-old difficulty.
This is easily one of the most unbalanced video games I have ever played in my life. I am not joking. Like in this one level, the hardest challenge you have to face is fighting a couple of enemies. And in another level, you will have to do a quest where you have to find 5 power boxes that are literally invisible, scattered around one of the most confusing and infuriating locations in the game, and paint them. I have been furious for the past month. Or you have to go back and forth between a level like 5 times, having to play the exact same 2D levels every time you go to and come back from the level. Oh my god! This isn't hard. This is just tedious and annoying and tedious and most importantly, not fun. And I mentioned that it was tedious. And what's even worse is that spontaneous difficulty. This is a reoccurring thing throughout the entire game. This is probably my biggest issue with the game. Oh my god.
So the next thing I want to discuss is the level design. And what better way to start talking about level design than talking about the level design for those 2D levels I was talking so highly about visually before.
Now, I've already stated that the visuals are spectacular, but gameplay-wise, they're nothing special. They're just little fun challenges for you to do. They don't really serve any purpose other than, similar to the morality system, existence. The first time you go through one, you're going to be charmed to no end, but when you inevitably have to go back through them again, and 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 again, they get a bit old. And again, and again. Don't get me wrong, I do like these levels. But with a game with so much backtracking, you're gonna have to go through these levels way too many times. I think after you go through a 2D level once, you should have the option to go back and play it, maybe in the extras menu. But after you go through it once to get to each location, you should not have to beat these basic and boring levels all over again. Fortunately, the 3D levels are also relatively basic. In fact, my favorite level in the game ended up being the very first level in the game, Dark Beauty Castle. Now, every level in this game is based off of an actual Disneyland location, but it's Oswald themed instead. But barely any of the levels take advantage of this brilliant idea. But then there's Dark Beauty Castle, which is definitely what I believe to be all of the best parts of that concept mashed into a phenomenon. I genuinely think this is one of the coolest first levels in any 3D platformer I have ever played. Diversity is the word I would use to describe Dark Beauty Castle. This level is diverse in terms of both gameplay and visuals. The first area of this level is a dark and moody castle, which leads to a theme park boat ride themed area, which leads to yet another amazingly designed area with a more Asian inspired design of that same theme park. And keep in mind, all of this is the first level. Now, since this was all in the first level in this game, the standard was automatically set really high. Now, was this standard met? I'm not going to go over every level like some do when covering these platformers, but I at the very least will say that every other level in this game is nowhere near close to the level of quality as the first level. Especially the second level, Gremlin Village, which is pretty much just there for a single task for you to complete.
I'm sure it has a great personality.
Dark Beauty Castle had the perfect difficulty for the first level, and a platformer in my opinion. Not too hard, not too easy, good to introduce mechanics, fantastic. But every other level in this game is mind-numbingly easy. And the easy difficulty makes it even more annoying when this game gets challenging, like I was talking about earlier. Most of the time, if there's a series of platforms that are just floating, you would think you were supposed to jump on, but no, you can just spray around with your blue paint and create an even bigger platform, or even just a straight up freaking bridge. And if not that, and there is an actual platforming challenge, you can literally just double jump your way through it all. And like 1/4 of all the levels you'll play aren't even about platforming, they're just about side quests and whatnot. Now, for pretty much every level, the goal is usually trying to get to another projector so you can move on to another level, so that way you can eventually fight the Phantom Blot. And how you get to these projectors is usually different every time. Sometimes you'll have to do a big quest, or solve a puzzle, or do some platforming. Usually these levels are made in a vertical way, so you have to climb up to get to your destination. And I personally think that that was a smart move because it balances out the double jump just a little bit. If the levels were made in a horizontal fashion, you could pretty much just double jump your entire way through the level. But since the levels are vertical most of the time, that means that you'll get to use the double jump, but you can't spam it your entire way through.
Please care about my opinion about how the Epic Mickey levels were designed.
Across all these levels, whether 2D or 3D, you'll collect a few different types of collectibles along the way, the most common being the E-tickets, which are this game's main currency. How many tickets you get depends on what color the ticket is. Red gives you 1, white gives you 10, green gives you 30, and gold gives you 100. With these tickets, you can purchase health upgrades, upgrades for paint and thinner capacity, and occasionally items for a quest. There's another collectible known as the film reels. Film reels can only be found in the 2D levels, which if you give enough to a cinema guy, he'll reward you with something. Power sparks are one of the rewards that the cinema guy will reward you with for returning film reels. Power sparks are the only collectibles that are actually required for progression. At a couple different points in the game, a gremlin named Marcus will ask you for a certain number of power sparks so he can power up one of the 4 projectors in Mean Street, which acts as kind of like a main hub. Oh yeah, speaking of Marcus the Gremlin, I almost forgot to mention the cage gremlins. You have the option to free in every level. I think whether you free them affects the pointless morality system or something. I don't know. I don't care. But I do know that if you successfully free all 30 of them at the end of the game, you will be getting a Gremlin Guardian pin from Marcus.
Oh, we'll get to the pins.
The parts to the animatronics are actually some of the collectibles I don't think I found any of in my playthrough. The gist of these is Goofy Daisy and my main man Donald Duck all became animatronics. Yes, they all became animatronics. Oh my god, there it is again. Goofy Daisy and my main man Donald Duck all became animatronics and lost their body parts as a result of the Mad Doctor's experiments. They ask you to find their lost body parts so they can put themselves back together. And even though I care about these characters in other media like the original shows and Kingdom Hearts, this game never gave me a reason to care about these new versions of these characters. They kind of just went, hey, look, it's robot versions of these characters you already love, so you must already love them in this game. And that is just a tactic that doesn't work for me.
Pins! Pins!
These are the dumbest and most useless collectibles in the entire game. Literally, the only thing they do is exist to be filler. And a ton of the really annoying hard side quests reward you with one of these things. And every time that happened, it pissed me off to no end.
You know crap's getting real whenever you start talking smack about pins.
Speaking of the side quests, they are like the most boring things in this entire game. Literally, all they are is go here, get this thing, come back, get reward. And even when the side quests weren't fetch quests, I still never cared about whether the character requesting me to do a task ended up for the better. Most of the time, I would do the absolute bare minimum whenever they gave me the option to. Overall, the side quests are kind of cool at first, because it's kind of like, oh, look, this 3D platformer has side quests. But whenever you actually play them, they are either boring or just straight up annoying. Now, if you know me, you know how much I cherish the soundtrack to a game and or film. James Dooley composed this soundtrack, and overall, he's had some pretty big accomplishments, such as working for Hans Zimmer on various film soundtracks. He was also the composer for Infamous 2, which he actually won an award for. Anyway, his talent definitely shows in this game. Overall, the soundtrack is very similar to the presentation, rather eerie and mysterious. And it definitely helps provide that atmosphere I like so much. Tomorrow City's theme especially was one of my favorites.
I was going to say, oh, it's super cool because it reminds me of a Disney movie. And then I remembered. And then the trauma came back. But overall, did I enjoy this game? I mean, I enjoyed a few aspects of it for sure. I mean, both the tone and the concept for this game, they were both brilliant. And I mean, the execution for the concepts that were so brilliant before, in some cases, were superb. But that's my main problem with this game. Only a few of the concepts that were so good were actually successfully executed. This game is your stereotypical B-grade platformer in terms of level design and gameplay, and not much more than that. But I still have tremendous amounts of respect for what this game brought to the table. I mean, the concepts and tone were both fantastic, as I previously stated. And I mean, this game is worth playing now and then for those two things alone. But as somebody who actually played through this game hours at a time, I can safely say I was done after a certain point, like a few hours before the game actually ended. If I had to give this game a score, it would definitely be somewhere near the middle, like a 2 out of 5. If I was including decimal points, it would definitely be getting a 2.5 out of 5. But unfortunately, I'm gonna skip out on the decimals, and I am choosing to round down. But don't let that low score scare you off. This is still a good game to play now and then. But for the love of God, do not play through this game hours at a time like I did. I promise you, if you do, the experience will be both far worse, and there is a very, very, very high chance that you will end up in some form of therapy. Like me.
Hey, Uncle.
Oh my God, what happened to you?
Epic Mickey.
Oh, been there. God, and I still haven't found the rat. You mean that one?
Squeak. Squeak.
Oh,
squeak,
God!
squeak,
Oh, God!
squeak,
Okay!
squeak,
Oh, God! No!
squeak,
No!
squeak,
No!
squeak,
No!
squeak,
No!
squeak,
Oh, God! Okay!
squeak,
Oh,
squeak,
God!
squeak,
No!
squeak,
No!
squeak,
No!
squeak,
No!
squeak,
No!
squeak, squeak,
No!
squeak.